Hello, everybody. So we are very exciting to start this session with our colleagues, with our partners, with our friends almost. Fabio, Daniel, I will give you, Andrew, the turn. So Andrew, please host this masterclass and we can start. And also I will share now, I will give you permission to share the screen.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll definitely kick us off here. I'll only take a few minutes, Fabio and Daniel here to share. So yeah, if you can give me the opportunity to share, that would be awesome. Perfect. Great, so welcome everyone. We're absolutely stoked to have you joining us today for our AI Talent Lab. So this is just the first session that we'll be having. As Yulia mentioned, we'll be doing weekly sessions with a variety of different guests who are leaders and participants within the AI space. And we are extremely excited today to have all of you. So thank you, Fabio and Daniel from Microsoft. Thank you, Yulia, for setting all of this up. And of course, thank you from all the participants all around the world. Just to briefly kind of give everyone a background about what the Neuton.AI Talent Lab is a place for all of us to come together and grow. So we'll be offering different educational programs for universities, colleges, business schools, and of course, our master class, which was Master Neural Networks in One Day. We'll also be looking at what's the art of the possible in artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we're gonna do lots of different deep dives into different use cases that we can apply. It could be within different industries. It could be within different business units within all of the different enterprises. It could also be your own personal interest. Maybe you're looking at how you can predict stock prices, for example. Additionally, we are going to be offering different technical discussions and roundtables with different leaders. It could be from our partners at ARM, Google, Microsoft, whoever it may be. We're going to be hosting these roundtables to help bring in that knowledge that we have so that we can all accelerate our careers as well as our understanding of artificial intelligence and machine learning. We're going to look at different types of ways we can develop ourselves from a career perspective. So we will have some programs from Neuro Mindset, which is a spin-off of UC Granada. So looking at different soft skills, cognitive abilities, as well as how can we change our mindset to be more AI focused as so many enterprises are moving towards that direction. We also have our partnership with Silicon Valley for You, so various different internship opportunities and programs and extracurricular activities. And then from our partners over at AI Guild, different career consulting and resume validation, as well as networking opportunities. So we're totally stoked to have everyone be part of our AI Talent Lab, and we'll continue to do this. Today, within our discussion, we're going to be talking with Fabio and Daniel about their particular use case that they have been able to tackle, as well as look at how we can leverage Neuton from an automated machine learning perspective to help us bring AI into production faster. And I'll show you a little bit of a live demo of how to create a model very easily with just a few clicks. And then of course, we'll constantly be doing these different ML competitions. We're working with different partners to provide you with, different types of books, academic material, possible internship opportunities, all kinds of good stuff. So just keep tuned in for all of that. And so today we are super excited to have Microsoft joining us. And before I hand it off to you, Fabio and Daniel, it would be wonderful if both of you could briefly, I'm thinking two parts, maybe if Fabio start, then Daniel, you could go after, but one, just a little bit about yourself and maybe some different milestones that you've seen in your career that have helped you move forward in the AI space. So yeah, I'd love to hand it off to you as well. So let me just close out the share screen, and Fabio, go ahead and get started. Super stoked to have you.
All right, thank you, Andrew, thank you, Yulia, for having us today. When you talk about my career, I'm probably going to date myself. So let's go. My background is in electric engineering and digital systems. I have always been interested in machine learning, artificial intelligence. Way back then, machine learning, the term didn't actually exist. And instead of R and Python, we use Lisp and Prolog to code systems that we call the expert systems instead, right? So there was nothing close to what we have today. Today is light years ahead of what we had way back then when I was in college. I joined Microsoft actually from a visit of a fellow Microsoft employee to the computer lab at college, and he called me to work on an event, and I did. I presented, some multimedia products that we're releasing at that time, and the rest is history, right? So I joined Microsoft, from working from help desk and technical support, sales. I did I stint with a Six Sigma. That's when I met Daniel, and I work everywhere at Microsoft except for for legal and for HR. But when I was doing projects in Six Sigma, I actually worked with HR and legal to run some projects. So I have a long history with Microsoft. I've been with the company for almost 30 years. And about 5 years ago, I said, you know what, I want to go back to my technical roots. And had been in business for so many years. And I said, this thing called the AI, machine learning, could be used in business. We've been using it only in products, but how can we use machine learning AI in business? So I took the plunge. I asked my boss at that time, say, I want to change my career. I want to change my role. And he said, fine, go for it. And Microsoft is great because you have all these opportunities, right, to reinvent yourself. So, and that's exactly what I did. I caught up with the technology, and today I am a director of business analytics. And one of the main things that I do at Microsoft is to really reinvent the role of business analysts around the company. In particular, my passion is with customer experience. So we apply all these techniques in improving the customer experience with Microsoft.
Great.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Daniel.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll take a minute here to introduce myself. First, thank you, the Neuton.AI community, Andrew, Yulia, and Fabio for inviting me as a guest to co-present with you here today. Really excited about the talk and sharing with you what we're doing at Microsoft. So I'm Daniel Milaf. I'm a CX strategist at Microsoft, and I'm currently a leader for Microsoft's US Connected Customer Experience Initiative. So I'm all about, and actually Fabio and I have worked together for a number of years, figuring out ways to optimize the experience that our customers have solving their business problems using Microsoft products and services. Obviously, Fabio is helping us with the data and business analytics portion of that, and mine's mostly around the discipline of customer experience management, which I'll talk a little bit about in my presentation. My humble beginnings started. I started with GE, and what's interesting about my path into the discipline of customer experience management, especially at Microsoft, is I was a Microsoft customer as an IT manager there for a while, and of course, GE is a big Six Sigma shop. My background was in quality, and Microsoft about 9 years ago when I joined was building a quality organization to help us optimize process and reduce defects. And the discipline of Six Sigma focused on operational efficiency really parlays very well into customer experience management and focusing on customers and measurement and using data analytics to help understand the problems and understand customers and requirements, right? So that's a bit about me, and excited to get to talk to you guys today.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Fabio, do you want to go ahead and get started? And
Sure. If I can share my screen, I'll run the slides and get right down into it. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, perfectly.
All right. So today we are going to talk about the business case at Microsoft, how we are using machine learning to predict customer satisfaction. This is an interesting day for me and for Daniel because we get to speak to AI experts about customer experience. And later today, we're going to talk about to customer experience experts about artificial intelligence. So we are going to talk about the subject, giving a little bit of emphasis on the AI side or in the customer experience side, depending on who we are talking to today. So I'll start with why business leaders should care about AI in the business side. And Daniel is going to talk about customer experience management, which is an area of business that AI is really ripe to help. And then we'll connect the dots by saying, okay, this is how we apply machine learning and Newton to solve this specific business problem. One of the challenges that I see today is that people in the business do not really understand AI and machine learning, the possibilities, and people in data science do not really understand the business. So I think it's wonderful, this initiative by Newton to share a little bit of the business case, so you familiarize yourself if you are not, if you don't yet have a lot of experience on the business side, so you can articulate the value that what you do can bring to the business. Okay, so let's go and dive into it. So why should business leaders care about AI? And if you have attended at any Microsoft event, you know that it is mandatory to have a picture of Satya Nadella as one of the first slides. Not because it's a company policy, but the guy is truly inspiring. One of the sentences that he has in his book says that we need to build deeper empathy for our customers and their unarticulated and unmet needs. It was time to hit refresh. So he wrote this in the book, and when I read this, I said, challenge accepted, right? Because how can I, working on the customer experience area, meet the unarticulated needs that our customers have? Traditionally, customer experience is driven by feedback, by customer feedback, by surveys. So if the customer is not telling us anything, it's hard for us to figure out what to do. Then I thought, well, we have, I don't know, just going to give you a fictional number, 20% of our customers responding to our survey. We help them, we receive the feedback and do everything that we can to solve the customer problem, help them. That's fine, but what about the 80% that is not telling us anything? Those are the customers that have these unarticulated needs that obviously will get never met, right? So that was the problem that I was trying to solve. The good news is that nowadays, machine learning is a piece of cake. I mentioned in the, in the beginning of my career at college, we use Lisp and Prolog. If you know what a Lisp code looks like, you know what I mean. Today, there's nothing comparable to that era. It literally is just like baking a cake. And I'm going to show you how we do that. Now, what is important about machine learning to know is that, and this is one of the reactions that I hear from data scientists when they come to business. They complain that they spend 80% of their time getting data, cleaning data, querying databases, joining data, sourcing data, and only 20% of their time actually running what they like, which is machine learning. But if you come to think about it, this 20% of time that you do machine learning is actually spent 80% of the time coding, right? You have to write your R code, your Python code, or whatever is, your favorite language. And only a few lines of that code is going to be actually data science, right? So I think it's super important to have the ability to use tools like Newton to simplify that process, right? So you actually spend most of your time doing value-added work. So this is the process that I observe, right? The first and the frequently ignored step is to really understand the problem and the goals. Sometimes we jump into action and we solve a problem nicely, but that was not really the question that was asked. So the number one goal really is to understand the problem and establish a success criteria. If this is a machine learning problem, then you have to establish what is the model performance that we are looking for, right? So you set, a bar for your project so you know when you get there. If you don't have that goal, you are trying to get, 80% accuracy, and you never get there. You're stuck at 75, and you think the project was a failure, but maybe 75% is pretty good, right? So that is something important to keep in mind. Gathering and preparing data is a necessity. In this project that I'm going to show you, I mentioned that I decided to change career and move into data science 5 years ago. I spent 3 years actually collecting data, going around the company, knocking on people's doors, asking for permission to get their data, putting that in a central database, starting running some interesting reports, nothing related to data science really yet, but just to show how data that never came together before can give us some insights that we obviously never had before, right? So that in itself is very important. And in that meantime, I couldn't stand 3 years without producing anything. So I produced more traditional BI reports, showing this data, correlating this data that people never saw together. And we got to a point that people was instead knocking on my door, offering their data. Here's my data, connect your database, run your analysis, because I want to see how my data is affecting these other business results, right? So learn to like to deal with data. That is, I think, my best advice. Data can be good for you, right? Then explore, understand this data, clean up the data. If you are in data science and you do not understand the business, it's really hard to clean up the data because you don't know what is bad data versus good data. You can say, well, but there are some rules like outliers. But what about if the outliers is actually what the business is looking for, right? So we have to understand the context. Number 5, select the possible algorithms and tools to try. So in the next slide, I'm going to show you how you make those decisions. And then once you have the data clean and you select the algorithm, select the tool, Then you have to prepare the data all over again. You have to massage that data in order to fit the tool or the algorithm that you are going to use. And depending on the algorithms, the requirements are different. You have to engineer features one way or the other. You have to split and train in test data sets. And only then you begin to actually train the model, right? And the other tedious aspect of this is that you have to start tuning all the hyperparameters. You know, this is like, imagine a big sound table that you are in a concert, and you have all those hundreds of knobs that you can adjust the mics, the drums, etc., until you get the perfect sound. You can spend hours tuning that, right? The audio engineer can spend hours just tuning a little bit here, a little bit there, in order to get a perfect sound. And this is what also happens in machine learning, and you can spend a lot of time trying all the combinations, right? Then finally, you evaluate the performance of the model using that test data set. And that's where you're going to figure out if you have that 80% that you're looking for, or 75% of the model performance. And then you repeat until the goal is met. Now, this last line, repeat until the goal is met, is interesting because sometimes you have to jump back to step 8. Sometimes you have to go back to step 6. And sometimes you have to go back to step 1, right? And renegotiate the goals. You say, well, we're not getting the 80%, but we're getting the 75%. Is that good enough? Right? And that is something important. And you are going to be in this loop for some time. So you need to find ways to save time and make this process run faster. And AutoML tools like Newton is incredible because you spend a lot less time doing the feature engineering, splitting the training the model and tuning all the hyperparameters, evaluating the performance. You can do these things a lot easier. In a traditional way, in order to do feature engineering, you have to actually write code. And you write code only to discover that that feature engineering approach did not work. So you become hesitant in creating new features, new engineered features, because you spend a lot of time to get very little reward, right? So this is another aspect that AutoML helps a lot, because from a model with, I don't know, 100 features, you can have 10,000 possible combinations of those features when you do feature engineering. If you're going to do this by hand, it's going to take forever. If you have a tool, then you can do this much more quickly. So before we jump into it, like I mentioned, you know, you never really learn machine learning if you don't know the iris data set, right? So I'm using the iris data set in this context here, just to illustrate how important data collection is, right? Now, the iris data set, for you that don't know, is like, you know, when you're learning the guitar, when you to play the guitar, everybody needs to learn how to play Stairway to Heaven, right? When you are doing data science, you have to learn how to deal with the iris data set. It's the same thing. So much so that, you know, if you go to a guitar shop, you see a sign say, please do not play Stairway to Heaven, right? And when you are in a data science presentation, you go, oh, again, the iris data set. Well, anyways, the point is you have the real world, right? The real world is a picture, is an image, is an experience. And you have to figure out ways to measure that experience, measure that picture, and create data points that you can use machine learning techniques in order to process that information, right? So in this example here, if you look at enough, you know, iris flowers, you notice that the proportion of the petal lengths and width, sepal lengths and width are very telling when it comes to the three varieties, versicolor, setosa, and virginica. So you get a little ruler and measure the petals, the sepals, to collect this data, you split into training and test data set, and then you run your model. So what Daniel is going to do is tell you how to measure the customer experience, right? It's just like looking at real life, looking at flower. How do you measure that, right? So he's going to, and well, because we love our customers, we're telling that our customers is our flowers, right? So that is what he is going to say. And here is when in that step of the process, selecting the right tools, selecting the right algorithms, things become important. The traditional data science path is, it's deep in mathematics. You use Python, C++, C# if you're really courageous to code machine learning, right? And in the modern data science, you focus more on the business side, and you spend less time necessarily in coding and creating the models. The way that I like to explain this is like baking a cake. You can bake the cake with the raw ingredients, with the eggs, the flour, and you're making all that mess and taking your whole afternoon to make that cake. Or you can buy a cake mix, and in a few minutes you have the cake ready to put in the oven, and soon enough you are having your coffee and your cake, enjoying it. Now, my grandmother would be very mad at me if I bake her a cake using an instant mix, because she is purist. She wants to see me, using the raw materials, the traditional way, etc. And I said, well, you haven't seen how fast the cake mixes have evolved these last years. It tastes delicious. It tastes just like your cake. And she is going to be completely mad at me, right? And I'm going to poke my finger at the data scientists like that. Data scientists that hesitate in using AutoML tools are behaving just like my grandmother. Okay, so that is my comparison of the modern data science with the traditional data science. And with that, let me pass the baton to Daniel. He is going to explain how we measure the customer experience before we can actually apply a machine learning model.
Thank you, Fabio. Thank you for the introduction. So a number of years ago, there was a bit of research that was done, and they surveyed executives and customers for a company. So they surveyed executives, the business leaders of a company, and said, how good is the experience that you deliver to your customers? And 80% of them said, the experience that we deliver is great. It's is the best. But when compared to the responses of the actual customers, only 8% said that their experience in doing business with that company or organization was good, right? And so there's a 72-point perception gap on what sort of business leaders think, and reality of what the customer experience is. And that is that basically the discipline of customer experience management is focused on closing that gap, right? So one of the tools that we use, key tools that we use inside of Microsoft to help us better understand our customers and their experience is a journey map. And maybe in the chat, if you're familiar with journey maps, so you can chat in there and say, yes, you're familiar, or something if you're familiar with journey maps. So just kind of want to get a pulse of the audience there. But it's a visual representation of an individual's experience in service of accomplishing some goal or outcome, right? And it takes some things that are concepts that are soft and squishy, like human emotion, right? Feelings, and put some structure around it so that we can better manage it. So, when we're doing journey mapping, we're talking about this individual and what they want, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're doing in sort of the current state, and like, how do we want them to feel? What do we want them to think? And then again, we can make some investments in and trying to be able to manage that. So share with you another piece of research that was done. Research is also showing that 42% of top performing companies are leveraging AI to gain insights into their customer journey, right? And we think about a company as complicated as Microsoft, as many products that we have, as many different experiences. I talk with, obviously our product line and our customers range from, the biggest of the big commercial enterprises and, government organizations to, my kids, my 8-year-old who plays Minecraft on Xbox, right? So, we have lots of different journeys, lots of different customers, and, to be able to scale that understanding across such a diverse set is a challenge. So can you jump to the next slide, Fabio? So I want to get into some basic concepts of journeys, journey mapping, right? So I talked about how it starts with an individual. Well, it's very difficult to create experiences and curate experiences for individuals because it costs too much, and it might be cost prohibitive. And if you design a one-size-fits-all experience for everyone, it lacks empathy, right? And journey mapping and experience management is an exercise in building empathy and understanding, right? So we use we find a happy medium and use personas, which are archetypes of individuals with common characteristics. So part of this is understanding, like, what are the characteristics, attributes of these individuals that make them different, that lead them to perceive and experience differently, right? You think about geographic, differences, cultural differences. We think about, just a type of customer. If you're a consumer, commercial, if you're a public sector customer, if you're in the healthcare industry versus manufacturing or retail. Right, so it's important to understand all those attributes and how they may be different. So we look at that individual and those personas, and they have a problem or goal that they have, and wants and needs that they're looking to satisfy as they progress through that journey. Right, so we have down here this representation of the journey. A pretty standard Microsoft journey for at least our commercial customers is learn, try, buy, deploy, use, value. So those are stages. And, so my Six Sigma background, or if you're thinking about process mapping, these aren't necessarily process steps. There's lots of overlap. There's not necessarily a clear start and end to each of these. But it's a construct that allows us to be able to manage and look at these wants and needs as they go through the journey. And then when they go to satisfy these wants and needs, some of them are more important than others, what they're looking to satisfy. They go to touch points and they interact with these touch points to, satisfy these wants and needs. And these it's important to be aware that these are touch points that, we as an organization, as a company might own. So our digital properties, our support center analysts, our salespeople, but also it could be, external third-party research or a YouTube channel or whatever. There's interactions that people are having all the time that help them formulate these perceptions. And the combination of these, the importance of the wants and needs, how difficult, the ease of satisfying those wants and needs, the importance of these touch points, how the ease and effort required to interact with those touch points culminate in what we call moments of truth. And that's anywhere along that journey where a customer's expectations are being tested. So, when we do journey mapping and we map this, we spend a lot of details mapping this out. We're looking for these moments of truth because those are the areas in which we need to sort of drill into and understand a lot better. You want to click to the next slide, Fabio? So look, customer experience is simple, but delivering it is hard, right? And so kind of tying the concepts that I introduced on the previous slide, the journey, we have a persona, an individual that is setting out to do something with or about our company or organization, right? And then they perceive that experience as something. And we think about how they perceive it as how useful, that interaction is, that experience is. So how much value they get out of it, ease, how much effort they have to put into it. And enjoyable is the emotional response that they're getting as they're doing business. So, and this has a lot to do with like the brand, right? So how they feel about doing business with Microsoft. Like our brand represents productivity, empowerment, accessibility, sustainability, right? We have a big environmental impact initiative going on, right? And that makes folks feel good about doing business with Microsoft. It's important to understand how those emotions impact their experience. And then, so they have these feelings, and that compels them to do something else, right? So there's behaviors that are driven off of these feelings that they have that we can observe, right? And, obviously we want them to rebuy, we want them to increase their business, but what we really want them to do is start to recommend. And that is where some of the sort of flywheel growth effect happens. And, we drastically lower cost of customer acquisition to, increase our sales, right? Because people have great experiences. They can't imagine doing business with anybody other than your company. And, they start telling everybody about it, right? And there's this viral effect. Now, our challenge is, and I think this might have a build to it, Fabio, so give me another click, is that this middle part is whatever our customers think it is, right? And another bit of research that I'll share with you is that, for every customer complaint that that an organization gets, right? So every, person that, puts a comment card in the comment box, there's 26 others that remain silent. So, I go around inside of Microsoft when telling my colleagues that when customers call us to tell us that they have a problem, we should be very grateful, because there's a lot of other customers that are just taking their business someplace else, right? So we need to be aware of that. And, through measurement, we can start to be able to manage this risk and improve our experience. Click to the next slide there. So I wanted to share with you some examples of the journey maps that we built and that we build inside of Microsoft. They're very high fidelity. And if you're familiar with journey mapping and persona development in your own organization, yours might look slightly differently. They have, some folks use avatars and things like that to represent individuals. But again, this is, as I mentioned, this is an exercise in building empathy. So we want to, really connect with these individuals in a human way. And, teams that are really good at using personas and journey maps start to refer to these folks, these individuals, and Sam and Lisa here as real people, as we're designing the experiences, and we're, sort of thinking about what they're feeling and what they're doing. Right. So we have this journey map, and, we advocate inside of Microsoft for a collaborative workshop-based approach to formulating this initial hypothesis, so our internal baseline of the experience. Right. And again, kind of walking through this high-level Microsoft journey: learn, try, buy, deploy, use, value. We can start to formulate hypotheses around where needs are being met, where we're falling short a lot, right? Where are the gaps? And then we can start to put some telemetry on how we monitor, their patterns of behavior as they progress through that journey. So these two examples are for a sales productivity journey. So these are customers that are purchasing Dynamics CRM or ERP. This is actually CRM. So to increase sales productivity. So, lead to opportunity conversion and deal win rates, right? Marketing campaign effectiveness and things like that. So this is their journey. Those are the business problems that they're looking to solve. And then we can look at, how, what is their experience in working with Microsoft to solve those problems and achieve their goals of increasing their sales productivity. Go to the next slide. So I want to leave you with this and give you a little bit more sort of structure on some things that you might be thinking about if you're interested in implementing your own sort of persona and journey-based insights approach, right? And how this is going to connect to some of the things that Fabio is going to talk about in the next set of slides here. So, I kind of talked a little bit about, that internal workshop hypothesis formulation, right? Before you even get to that, you want to start by scoping and making sure that, you're framing the business problem in the right way. Have a set of preliminary proto personas and maybe some initial requirements. Make sure you have the right set of stakeholders, because, you in formulating these hypotheses, you want to make sure that you have the right SMEs involved to help you create that, detailed journey map. And the output of that is just going to set you up really nicely for that internal workshop. And, it's about it. You spend some time, look, and, definitely certainly get some pushback on the amount of hours it takes to run one of these workshops, but it's, it's important. And it actually helps, build sort of a common understanding across, many different silos of functions that need to come together to deliver that end-to-end experience on what really matters and what's important. So, it's important to invest that time. But once you have that journey map output, then you can start building some stuff from it. I highly encourage anybody who's setting out to, investing any resources, and especially scarce engineering talent in, building new digital touch points or improving, is to actually go out and talk to customers and get some validation. But, in addition to some of this validation, you can build some other things like, what is your experience strategy? So once you have that understanding, you can think about what's your experience strategy. You can start to, inform your, experience design, right? You can start to define metrics and measurement to measure those patterns of behavior. And definitely you're going to go out and you're going to use the hypothesis to figure out what questions you're going to ask when you do a perception survey to go and capture that perception data. So you need to ask customers how they feel and gather that insight and pull that data together so that you can start to match it to the behaviors and other data about the customer's attributes and characteristics that can help you understand. And what Fabio is going to tell you is how you can predict, their satisfaction, their overall experience doing business with your company or in trying to solve that problem or goal that they have. So I'll hand it back over to Fabio to pull this all together for you.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Now, why are we spending the time talking about the process of creating a journey map and getting this information? Because if you are in a company that does this, they are going to throw the data on your lap and say, create a predictive model, right? There is an opportunity for you to influence the way that this data is generated in the first place. So you have data in a format that is easier for you to apply data science and apply the algorithms that you have in mind, right? So when I say collecting data is not just querying a database and getting the data, figuring out how to create, to clean the data, but you have an opportunity to participate in the data generation process. So the data is generated in a format that is useful for you. Now, this is what happens, right? Microsoft has so many journeys. So just as an example, I'm looking at the experience with Azure versus Office 365, Dynamics 365. Each one of these cloud products, right? They have their own journey. Inside the same company, they might have a different IT individuals, for example, or sales leaders that participate in those projects or use those products, and not everybody sees everything, right? So when you're talking about a consumer product, it's relatively easy to understand the journey, but now you have different individuals participating in different journeys that might be in different stages. So when you're creating this type of models for business to business relationship, it's a lot more complicated. So now, what these models do is help you identify what are the business metrics that really are important to be carried for further to create a model, right? So in our case, we use these journey models to identify the metrics, the business metrics, and this includes sales opportunities, win ratio, meaning did we win the sales or lost the sales, or technical support cases, how long it took to solve the case in average, opportunities, the currency that the customer uses, etc. So all of these things are important aspects. And then we connect it to the customer experience response, which is coming from the satisfaction surveys. So in summary, first step is to understand the customer journey, to collect the experience data from internal systems, from surveys, etc. Then connect the voice of the customer. After all this is said and done, how do you feel about your experience? Then 4, you train a machine learning model. So here is what I know, right? These are the customers. This is how they express their satisfaction with what they're getting in from Microsoft. And here are all the data points that I have about their experiences. So these are not survey questions. These are business metrics. So once I train this model, I can predict the risk for each one of the customers because I have their business data, even if they never participated in the survey. So that gives me the opportunity to meet the challenge that Satya gave to us, which is to meet the unmet needs that customers don't even tell us that they have. So this is the model that we created. We look at about 800 different data points across the company, coming from all these different areas. And we selected the top 200 metrics that range from knowing the customer, all the CRM type of information, what type of industry they have, what is the customer segmentation, relationship, how do we collaborate with these customers, do they participate in events, the purchase experience, the product telemetry, how they're using the products, support experience when they have a problem, how quickly we solve their problems, etc. Are they realizing value from their purchase? And even external factors. We take into consideration competition, but even the COVID infection rate in their local markets to see if that and how Microsoft is responding to those needs is important. And I can tell you, it is very important. So the output of this is one, the prediction of the customer satisfaction that we can understand in this case here, what is the likelihood of the customer being satisfied with their experience or not. But the other output that is very important is what we call the experience drivers, and you might know as feature importance in the model, which tells us which of these experiences are most important to the customers, right? So I can run this model and figure out that, these CSU engagements are super important. The COVID is super important, right? So these are things that I can act upon to improve the customer experience in general. But there's also another feature that you also find in Newton that can generate the local feature importance. What this means is, for that particular customer, what is most important? Is it maybe for one customer is this attribute, another customer is the support experience, another one is participation in events. So this way you can meet the specific needs for from a customer even before they even tell you. You don't even need to have a question in the survey to understand what is important. The model, if you create in the right way, can help you understand that. Now, let's jump into the practical part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you briefly how I loaded this data into Newton, the insights that I can extract from that. And then Andrew is going to give you a little bit more detail on how this works. So let me pull Newton here. So here is really the entire process. Once I shape the data, I can load as a data set into Newton. And the only thing that I really need to do is to identify the column that has the response for the model or the label. In the case, is my first column here, high risk, which is a 0 or 1. And then all the experience attributes. Does this customer has an account plan? Does this customer has certifications, training, etc. So these are the features that go into the model. And the only thing that I have to do is upload, click on what is the label and start training. Once you train the model, you get the model performance. I'm not going to do this live here because with this data set, it took 1.5 hours to run. And one of the features that I like the most here is this visualization of the model performance. And immediately I can see something that is interesting. The model is performing relatively well in most of these metrics, except for this balanced accuracy. And the balanced accuracy is not performing well from the data science perspective for a bad reason, but from a business perspective, a very, very good reason. What this means is that my data, my classes, this is a binary classification, happy customers, unhappy customers. These two classes in my data is not balanced, right? So you can search on the internet if you don't know what this means. It's how you deal with an unbalanced data set where there is a majority class and a minority class. In our case, we are lucky enough to have a minority class being the unhappy customers, right? I would be very concerned if this data was balanced, that 50% of our customers were unhappy with Microsoft, right? So there are ways to fix this. There are a couple of techniques. We're not going to spend time today talking about this, but you can search for these articles and figure out what you have to do in order to fix it. Then on the prediction tab, I can put the list of the data from all the companies that I have in the data set and run the predictions. And you know now which company is happy, which company is unhappy. And the beauty of this is that if I run my survey only every 3 months, with one extra month worth of data, right? The experience from those customers that are participating in the survey already changed. So even before the next survey wave, I can tell which customers might give us a low score or a good score. And the other feature that I really love here is the future importance. What the future importance tells you are what experiences are the most important for this group of customers, right? So here I'm selecting the top 10. Partner management is important, EA commitment is important, CS, etc. But you can also look at the original features. So these are the data points that were input into the model, but you can also look at the engineered features. And then you'll find more specific and more actionable things, insights. For example, I have a variable that is called subregion. And if I say that the geography or the subregion where the customer is important, is less actionable than if I say, if the customer is in Denmark, it is a highly predictable fact. And there is something that we can do in Denmark in particular to improve customer satisfaction or to learn from Denmark what they're doing well, and we can apply to the rest of the world. So here you can actually see what is important in the engineered features, right? So in this case here, I'm guessing that because this is a categorical variable, there was a one-hot encoding procedure run, and it became a column 0 or 1 if the customer belongs to Denmark, and this is an important factor. And using the APIs, you can actually know what one particular customer is driven by, and you can act on a specific for that customer. Okay, so this is how we tie everything together. As you see, the machine learning aspect of this project was very quick. I think it's proportional to the time that we spent in each one of these topics. It takes a long time to get the right data. so you can apply the right model and make the right business decisions. With that, turning over to Andrew.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Fabio and Daniel. Wonderful insights. Just a couple of things I wanted to highlight myself that I found really interesting. Fabio, from your experience moving across different fields in Microsoft is extremely exciting. I think for all of us from a career perspective, we can all look at the different ways that we can expand our skill sets by trying new things and exploring new areas. I also loved kind of your talk about the traditional data set or data science versus the more modern data science. So thank you for that. And then Daniel too, I just wanted to highlight from a customer journey map. I mean, this is extremely important. We're always trying to understand how we can understand our customers better and better service them. Also, how can we make ourselves better so that this entire process can work from an end-to-end perspective. So thank you both very much for your insights and everything like that. Super great, really appreciate it. I'll just quickly share a few things here before I will showcase a demonstration of customer satisfaction that we did from a Kaggle data set for a particular airline. So while we're very focused on the customer experience, I'd also like to just bring it back a little bit about how we can look at artificial intelligence from an organization perspective. So when we were talking about leveraging Microsoft CRM, leveraging Microsoft Azure, leveraging all of these different things, those systems are also involved internally. So how can we look at our own IT, our own sales, our own risk, our own products, and how can we leverage machine learning to help us in that perspective? And as you kind of highlighted, Fabio, right, the entire traditional process of data science, going from the project idea, finding the data scientist, setting up the infrastructure, analyzing the data, I mean, taking years to collect the data, right? And then processing it, doing any type of feature engineering, modeling, and then finding the developers to be able to deploy the AI model. And then all of a sudden you have bad results and you have to start over again, right? Or maybe it worked out well and you're doing predictions and all of that good stuff, which I hope worked out for you as well for your particular use case. And as you kind of highlighted as well, with Newton, we're able to start with the project idea, just upload our data, train the model, and we're ready to make predictions. So some of the advantages are being able to bring AI productions or AI into production 10 times faster. We can reduce the cost of implementation from an automated perspective, and we need less support for those models. And we've put in some lifecycle management tools to help be able to understand if your model's decaying and needs retraining, as you had mentioned, doing predictions every 3 months. And then if the model's decayed, what can we do? So the idea is, can we run a machine learning experiment with just 3 clicks and being able to do a lot of the kind of data pre-processing that can be a lot of manual effort. I believe you had about 10 points across the entire process, from understanding the requirements to gathering the data to processing the data, creating the model, and that iterative approach. I think this is in line as well with what you were sharing as the traditional data science versus the modern data scientist. So you have data science, coding skills, how can we do data mining? What are the machine learning tools that we have available? Do we have analytical skills? And then how do we connect that with the IT infrastructure? And I feel that the customer journey and customer experience, when we look at business domain expertise, so whatever vertical you may be in, it could be oil and gas, it could be retail, e-commerce, could be logistics. How can we as individuals focus on those particular verticals that we're really passionate about, and how can we apply machine learning to? how can we look at the different business problems within that? So if you are looking at retail, maybe you are looking at that customer experience, you are looking at that customer churn, and how can we understand that problem and apply these different techniques too. Additionally, creative thinking, this works really well with, Daniel, your kind of customer journey mapped. I mean, preparing for workshops, doing workshops, gathering the data, doing quantitative analysis, all of those things can be applied not only to the customer journey, it could be applied to a company's AI journey. How can we go to each business unit, understand what finance and accounting is doing, understand what logistics is doing, and apply that creative thinking in those workshops to other areas of interest. And communication and leadership. So the ability to be able to communicate to business, the ability to communicate with IT and bring these skills forward. And having that AI mindset, kind of like you had mentioned, Fabio, from Satya's book, absolutely having that mindset of being able to understand the unarticulated and unmet needs. How can we bring in project management and agile to that, as well as network? So overall, we see these skills as the data scientist of the future. So I'm going to quickly jump into the customer satisfaction problem that I was mentioning earlier from an airline. So as Fabio had showcased, this is the Newton platform. Here I've got some different solutions that I've built in the past, whether it be a bake marketing, customer churn, or in this case, customer satisfaction. So I'll just kind of quickly jump through. In this case, we'd like to create a model that is predicting the customer satisfaction. I'll just name it that, rightly so. Once we've done that, we can then upload our data set. So here I have a series of different data sets that we have done different solutions for. In this case, I have 2 data sets. We talked a little bit about separating our training set and then having the predictive training set. So in this case, the training set is all of the historical data of the customer journey that we have and what their satisfaction is, whether it was highly satisfied or not satisfied. So it kind of ties back to the specific use case that Fabio is working on. This is more of a generalized one, but we can go into a little bit more detail. The test data set that we have is all of the customers that we're going to want to predict their future satisfaction on. Right now, it's going to quickly go ahead and just check the data to make sure it's good. Once it says it's good, here we're able to click OK. And on the top, as mentioned before, we have 3 steps: the data set, the training, and prediction tab. Let's just quickly take a look at the data. So when we were looking at customer satisfaction, it may be categorical data for gender, the customer type, age, so a lot of different demographic information. The type of travel, we talked a little bit about this. It could be, a consumer to consumer, or it could be B2B. What class of flight, how long the flight was, etc. So we have lots of different information that we've been collecting from our customers, whether they've had baggage handling or not, if they have in-flight service, whether it was good cleanliness, for example. And then and then the customer satisfaction that ideally we would have been able to collect from a survey. So we either have the customer was satisfied, or they were neutral or dissatisfied. So this is a binary classification, kind of like, are they a high risk or a low risk customer? All we'll need to do here is select the target variable, which is satisfaction, and click next. Once we've done that, the platform has understood it's a binary classification, whether somebody was satisfied with their flight or not. And the metric is accuracy. You can choose different ones, but we'll stick with this because we'll want to accurately predict whether they were satisfied or not. And then click training. All of this is automated, so we don't need to deal with any provisioning or anything like that. The Newton platform will do that automatically for you. We can also set up a text notification, so when our model's complete, we'll get a text and we can come back to the platform and start to understand it. I've already
this is one of the features that I like the most, to get a text when the model is finished. So I don't have to be, clicking refresh or checking the homepage all the time. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super convenient. Unfortunately, I put my mobile phone number in our demo account, so I'm getting text messages from all the solutions we're building. Here with the same data set, I've already trained a model, so let's just look at that. Here we can see the model took 29 minutes to train, and we have this model quality index that we saw earlier. This can vary depending on the data types and problems you're trying to solve and things like that, where we saw some issues with maybe balanced accuracy and things like that. Now within the prediction tab, this is really kind of where the interesting piece was. And earlier we saw the feature importance matrix, which is really cool. I'll go into it a little bit. Some of the things that we didn't see here were looking at the prediction tab. I've already enabled prediction. We've added this particular feature to help people like data analysts or business analysts be able to do predictions on the fly. So in this case, I would simply upload my customer satisfaction test. So this would be all of the customers I want to predict on how satisfied they are. So I have already uploaded this and enabled prediction just so we can save a little bit of time. Going a little bit deeper into what Fabio was talking about with each individual prediction. So here, Newton has all of the features that from the test data set that we have. Everything here from the left is what Newton has predicted and provided within the platform. So we can see different individuals who are satisfied and how probable they are of being satisfied. In this particular case, customer number 5 was neutral or dissatisfied. So this might be something we want to look into a little bit deeper. And the interesting piece here is the probability of them being neutral or dissatisfied is 75%. The probability is 25%. So this might be an interesting customer that we can look at and dive a little bit deeper. And that's where we've created what we call our model interpreter to understand this individual prediction. Here we can see they were neutral or dissatisfied with a 75% probability. Now, here we have a lot of the features that have influenced this particular prediction. In this particular case, we're looking at in-flight Wi-Fi service. So whether somebody on the flight, what quality of Wi-Fi service that they have. In this particular case, it was ranked as a 2, and they were neutral or dissatisfied with a 75%. Now, if we are able to change this value to a 4, so much higher quality of Wi-Fi, we would now have a neutral or dissatisfied of 60%. So we can see that there's some business insights or actions we can take on being able to potentially be able to provide better in-flight Wi-Fi service. We can also see different features of the type of travel, whether it was business or not. In-flight entertainment, this particular individual was ranked at a 2. If we were to up the in-flight entertainment to a 4, then we would actually predict them with a 55% probability of being satisfied. This will allow us to look at different features of individual predictions to help us gain business insights. There's just a couple of other things that I will show here. And we can also take a look at the chat and Q&A afterwards. So here is our historical model to data relevance indicator. So every month, I'm predicting the satisfaction of our customers, right? Maybe after month 2 or 3, the data starts to change and the model is no longer relevant. This percentage, say, will drop to 70%, and the tree will kind of get withered and turn yellow. So this might mean we want to now retrain a model. So this is something that we can use for a model lifetime management tool or lifecycle tool. As we saw also from a feature importance matrix perspective, we can see how potentially Wi-Fi is extremely important, as well as we've got type of flower or in-flight entertainment, gate location, whether they had baggage handling or not, etc. The last thing I will show is also an analytics tool that we've added, what we call as our exploratory data analysis. This will give you an overview of all of your data. So we have 2,700 neutral or dissatisfied and 2,000 satisfied. So it's a fairly balanced data set from Kaggle. And then we can also see if there's missing values. So there was a very small percentage of missing values. We can look at continuous data. So how is our age distribution? We can see a lot of people in the 20 to 30 range, as well as up to 40, and how that may influence the target variable. Additionally, we can look at the flight distance. A lot of the flights were here under 1,000. If we look at how the flight distance is in relation to the target variable, we have instances for neutral or dissatisfied up to about 1,000 miles. Above 1,000 miles, it looks like most people were satisfied. So we could look at, what are the flights below 1,000, where we have both cases of satisfied and dissatisfied. Additionally, when we're looking at categorical data, so in this particular case, whether it was business travel or personal travel, we can see whether they were neutral or satisfied. So from personal travel, we have a lot of neutral and dissatisfied and a little bit of cases of satisfied. And then business travel, we can see a large distribution of satisfied customers versus non-satisfied. So we might want to take a look at what we're doing in business travel and see if we can apply some of those techniques to increase customer satisfaction as well. This is just a snapshot showing the percentage of satisfied versus not satisfied. This is one of my favorite ones. It's our correlation heat map that helps show us what features are correlated to the target variable. So in this particular case, online onboarding type of travel are fairly correlated with the target. We can also see cross correlation between cleanliness as well as seat comfort. In some cases, if some particular features are highly correlated, we might want to take a look at that and see if we want to remove them, if it may cause some issues with our model. And we also have a missing value. All of the dark rows, as we saw, it had a very few missing values. If there were more missing values, there may be a lot of white dots along here. And here as well, we can just see very few missing values as well. So that was just a little bit deeper dive into the customer satisfaction use case that we did in relation to kind of what you had shared, Fabio, as well. So thank you, everyone, for joining, Fabio, Daniel as well. We'd love to open it up for any discussion points, Q&A, that kind of thing.
Thank you, Andrew. Please, if you have questions, you are very welcome to ask us and Fabio and Daniel and Andrew. And meanwhile, you tap your questions. I would like to say that we will run ML competition in our Slack channel by using this particular case, this customer satisfaction problem. that you can understand how to solve it by using our platform, and also how to understand the logic behind this model, how to use model interpreter and all our tools. So I invite you, and will enjoy, of course, to see you in our channel. I already share it here in the chat, but of course, we will share it also on our page, LinkedIn page, our YouTube channel. So please join. We will start this competition straight away after this webinar today, and you will have this weekend to practice, to share your experience, to ask your questions, to contact us in channel Slack, and you will need to upload your results, your answers till the end of the Monday. 1st of November, it will be Monday. Of course, as always, we will reward our winners, and we also will provide a certificate from Neuton.AI. So please enjoy, participate, improve your knowledge, your practical skills, and we will be very happy to serve you and to help you in this journey of how to predict the customer satisfaction problem. Okay, so let's see if we have questions for our speakers.
Yeah, I saw a couple. Some were, of course, if they're able to get access to the recording, which will be on the YouTube channel, as well as the PowerPoints that we can share in Slack. There was a question regarding logistic regression and if there's other algorithms. So within the Newton platform, you're able to do regression, classification, multi-classification, time series, and we also can handle natural language processing and text as well. And then, of course, lots of awesome comments. I think there was some chat about everyone being hungry. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to close it out and you'll be able to get some food as well. Also, Yulia, I think there was one Newton email address to get into the Slack. So they're asking for a new link as well. I'm not sure if you were able to address that.
No, I think you don't need it. You can join our Slack channel with your normal personal email. But anyway, if you have some problems to join, please you can text me personally. I will leave you my email.
Yeah, I had a problem too. I was trying to get into the channel.
Yeah.
It didn't let me because my my domain was different. Maybe we have to change to public or something.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we will set it up. We will fix it, and hopefully during the 1 hour it will be fixed, and I will notify you. Anyway, you are very welcome to write me also. I will just leave you my email.
Yeah, Ilya had shared a new link with the public one, so that should work if everyone can use the Ilya one. Mm-hmm. And oh yeah, I think your cake story inspired the food discussion, Fabio. So
I'm ready for my breakfast.
Right.
Just in case, yes, guys, if we need to change the link for Slack channel, in this case, we will post it in our LinkedIn page. And also, of course, you are welcome to write me direct messages and I will help you, okay? Mm-hmm.
Then there was one note, hey, been interested in machine learning and data science program. This session has been an eye-opener. Secondly, I have an interest to join Microsoft in Africa, Moreso, Kenya. Which steps can I follow?
Yeah, there is a website. I believe it's career.microsoft.com. You can find the job openings locally, so you can see if there is a job opening local. However, one interesting thing after the pandemic is that today it doesn't really matter where you are. You can be sitting in Kenya, but working with people in France, in Germany, and in Japan, right? So it doesn't really matter today if you find a good job, you know, that you are interested, that aligns with your skills and your ambition. I really recommend that you apply, even if the job is not local.
Awesome.
Yes, I think if you can search on the careers website for just other, right? So there's like a, you know, you can be 100% remote, and Microsoft is one of those companies that is offering that to employees. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily matter where you are. You know, definitely apply.
More questions? Come on, guys, you have an amazing opportunity to ask about very deep insights of Microsoft. Enjoy it.
Should we search for remote jobs? I think, Daniel, you had mentioned you can click other.
Yeah, it's just, it's other. Yeah, I don't think it says remote. It's just other, and other implies anywhere.
Generally, in the job description, they mention if it is okay to be remote. Even if you select Redmond, which is where our HQ is, they might say that it's okay if you are remote.
Great. I also would like to mention, Fabio, that you are running your course in business school of Kaplan. Maybe some of our participants would like to join your course. Could you please share the information about it?
Sure. So I'm, you know, nowadays I have 3 full-time jobs. The second job besides Microsoft is I'm a professor of business analytics, data science at Kaplan Business schools in Australia. You know, just to prove that you don't have to be local to, you know, work with somebody in a completely different place. So we have programs for data science for non-technical people, right? So this is kind of my dream. If I were to start my career, I will take a course like that. It's for business people, you know, people that take this course is, you know, masters in marketing, in accounting, in other related areas, and they are taking machine learning and AI. And we only use tools like Newton, AutoML tools in order to create our model. So it's important to understand the concept, be able to apply that in your business career, right? And at least be able to talk to the data scientists that is going to help you get that insight, that preliminary model that you created and put in production, etc. Right? So if you are interested, look for Kaplan in Australia. As a matter of fact, I have my last class had 17 students. None of them were sitting in Australia. We had you know, people in China, New Zealand, Brazil, Paraguay, France, and a couple of people that actually were living in Australia, but they were not Australians. So it is a very, very diverse experience.
This is the globalization, yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, it's also our passion to give opportunity for business people or maybe people from different industries to understand and use AI and use machine learning, because in just last week, Andrew also mentioned in one webinar that it's fact that only 10% of the of all machine learning models goes to in production. It's a big problem because it's a hard work of data scientists, of data analysts, but finally business cannot get benefit from it. So in order to move it, in order to change this situation, we work together And I think we will have more sessions with Fabio, with Daniel. It was amazing. Thank you so much. And we would like to invite you for next masterclass and webinars. And also we will invite more people from different industries and share with you real knowledge, real business cases, and modern techniques, and all tools that you can use in order to be successful in data career.
Awesome.
Okay, so do we have more questions?
Yeah,
yes.
so there were,
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, sure. So did the same university you teach offer online studies on data science?
It is 100% online nowadays because of, if you guys don't know, Australia has been a strict shutdown. Even students that moved to Australia had to take their classes from home. So it didn't pay off to move to another country for your studies because now everything is online. There is an option to do in class, but even those in class have shifted to online.
And you also cover data science as well on top of that, or is it mostly a master in business?
No, it's a master in business. It's an MBA course that has some disciplines in data analytics, machine learning. The next class that I'm going to do is going to be all about forecasting and financial data, right? Which is some time ago, I was in finance at Microsoft, so this is going to be great to go back to the finance days. Yeah, so it's very diverse. You can, apply through the website and be an international student. It is a good experience for you. And
yes, especially if you want to calculate cost of goods sold, you'll definitely be doing that probably. And then how can we know about upcoming events like today's? I think probably, Yulia, the best thing would be to maybe follow us on LinkedIn. Would be.
Yeah, sure. I'll already share the link. Please join us in LinkedIn. We already upload their agenda, and we will always to notify you about all our new events. As I told, we're planning huge amount of interesting masterclass and business cases. So please be tuned. Just join us there, and you are very welcome to all of them.
By the way, I was able to join the Slack channel, and I'll be there if anybody has any questions afterwards. Feel free to post your question. I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, actually, in the same page of this event on LinkedIn, you can also ask us, and we can chat. And I think we fixed the problem with the Slack, and we share the right link. So please join, and you can be in touch with us 24 hours, even we are in Australia, Spain, or United States. Please join, yeah. Okay, so I think if we don't have more questions, would you like to add something, Andrew?
No, I think we're good. Just amazing session, super fascinating. Thanks, Fabio, Daniel, Yulia, and everyone who joined in as well. Can't wait to chat on Slack. And yeah, let's start getting some cool projects going, like you had mentioned. We can, use these experiments to kind of get some nice experience with data science. But yeah, overall, I think I'm good.
Okay, so thank you so much for all of you. Thank you for the session. Oh, thank you, Derika. Nice to see you here. And so we see each other very soon. Have a nice day, night, evening. And we wish you very big luck in your professional and personal life.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Bye-bye.